Hello, friends, and welcome back to Classical Chats. I'm Hayden,
I'm Liz.
your two musical friends with lots of opinions. Before we get into the monumentous task for today, if you enjoy content that we've been putting out, we have musical reviews, we're talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if you want to stay for also British dramas, anything else in that realm at all, please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, like this video, leave a comment down below. Let us know, how did Liz do today? Please. This is going to be such a fun video. But what are we doing today, Liz? What is the task at hand?
So today, Liz, am going to explain the Marvel Cinematic Universe in
To
15
me.
minutes or less.
To me.
To Hayden. To Hayden.
I know nothing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I've seen two
Yeah.
films. I've seen Black Panther and Iron Man, and it's been so long that at this point it's as if I've never seen them. I know
Yeah.
nothing. Liz knows everything. She tries to explain things to me, and it is as if it is just white noise hitting a wall. The task today.
So, is to educate Hayden. It's to
Mm-hmm.
educate Hayden in a short, timely period. Now, so just some disclaimers ahead of time. We are going to be doing this rapid fire style. I have a visual aid that you may or may not be able to see right now. I'm going to aim to go 15 minutes or less without stopping for Hayden's questions until the end. And I've got my notes. I've got 4 pages of notes. And it's fine. Everything's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
But this is going to be taking us chronologically. So in chronological order, not necessarily in order of movie release. We're going in time order so it makes sense to Hayden.
Yeah, because
Um,
girl, I'm as dumb as a box of rocks when it comes to Marvel Cinematic Universe.
he's very brilliant. He's getting his doctorate. But when it comes to the MCU, he's oblivious.
I'm basically a freshman undergrad in my music theory, having no prior experience. Just, what is
Yeah.
this? So it'll be fun.
Barely passed the entrance exam to
Hmm.
get out of taking basic musicianship.
That is
It's
correct.
going to be one of those.
Hmm. Hmm.
But we are going to be focusing just on the first 3 phases. So we are doing everything from the original Iron Man movie and actually the Hulk movie that actually became before it, but we don't talk about the Hulk movie. We will talk about the Hulk movie, but it's very short. All the way through Endgame. So we are going all through that time, 1942 to 2023, I believe.
And if you want to see something equally as comical, Liz rapid fire explaining the entirety of WandaVision, hit the link up above, and that'll take you to that wonderful video where it's an hour long of me being drastically confused.
And this is going to be a shorter version, but with much more content.
Yes.
So here we go. Let's start the clock. Now, it's 1942. The Nazis are in power. There's an evil guy running the science side of the Nazis. This is Hydra. Switch to the US. Steve Rogers is a shrimpy little dude with a heart of gold. They inject him with super soldier serum. He becomes the symbol for the US when he's entertaining the troops, and he finds out that his best friend is being held prisoner, and they won't go and save him and his men. Steve saves Bucky. This is Bucky. They fight Hydra and their leader, Red Skull, and they are doing fine, but there is a bomb on a plane, so Steve sacrifices himself and flies the plane to a safe location, and he does this all while British agent turned love interest Peggy Carter listens. We'll come back to the end of this movie later. It's now 1989 and 1995. All you need to know about Captain Marvel is Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, is super powerful. She spent some time not having her memory living in space, and she became friends with Nick Fury, who gets his eye scratched out by an alien that looks like a cat. Now it's 2000. Now it's 2010, and Tony Stark is a genius billionaire playboy philanthropist. He makes missiles, gets kidnapped and held until he makes shiny missiles for his captors. Instead of making the shiny missiles, he makes the Iron Man suit. He gets free, decides that his company should stop making weapons, which pisses off his dad's friend and business partner, who instead starts making Iron Man suits. They fight. Tony says, "I am Iron Man" at a press conference, and Nick Fury tries to recruit him into the Avengers. In 2011, Captain America, aka Steve Rogers, wakes up in a hospital room and runs out onto the streets of Times Square and is recruited by Nick Fury to join the Avengers. Bruce Banner gets exposed to gamma radiation and becomes the Hulk. Iron Man 2, Tony Stark is still an asshole, but he has a new assistant that is actually Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow. He gets into a fight with a Russian guy and then into a fight with his biggest tech rival. Also, at the end, there is a weird hammer that no one can move that shows up in New Mexico. Thor. Thor, son of Odin, gets into a fight that he shouldn't have right as he's supposed to become king and then is banished to Earth. Loki, his brother, has an identity crisis because he's not actually a son of Odin. And so he ends up sending monsters to attack Thor on Earth, and Thor defeats the monsters and can go back to Asgard, meanwhile getting a girlfriend in the process. Loki comes to Earth, brings a bunch of monsters, and mind controls people to get a shiny cube. Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, the Hulk, Thor, and Hawkeye team up. Tony Stark gets PTSD from this, goes off the deep end, then fights a fake bad guy. We learn more about his best friend, Rhodey, and his assistant / on-again, off-again girlfriend, Pepper Potts. Loki gets an Asgardian trial. Thor goes to Earth to be with his girlfriend. Monsters come down, she gets sick, his mom dies, and nobody actually likes this movie. S.H.I.E.L.D., the organization the Avengers are under, is compromised and taken over by Hydra. Nick Fury fakes his death. Steve Rogers is on the run. We meet Peggy Carter's niece, Sharon Carter. Black Widow helps Steve, and one of the bad guys turns out to be a brainwashed Bucky Barnes. Also, Steve makes friends with Sam Wilson, who becomes the Falcon. Now, we're in space again. Peter Quill is an idiot. He finds an orb thing and tries to sell it. He ends up getting arrested along with Gamora, an assassin and daughter of Thanos, Rocket, a cybernetically modified raccoon, Groot, a talking tree, and in prison they meet Drax the Destroyer. They team up, break out of jail, they fight some bad guys, and find out that the orb contained an Infinity Stone. Groot dies in the fight, but baby Groot lives on.
Woo!
Then the Guardians go ahead, helping the galaxy. We find out that Peter's dad is a god, and not a good one. And basically, two others, Nebula, Gamora's sister, and Mantis, Peter's dad's servant, join the group, help to defeat Peter's dad, and in the end, the guy that raised Peter dies helping destroy Peter's dad. Peter and Gamora are now in love. In Eastern Europe, the Avengers raid a Hydra facility and find two mutants, Pietro and Wanda Maximoff.
I know them.
Loki's scepter. You know them. Which they find Loki's scepter, which contains an artificial intelligence in the stone. They let this out of the stone. It's bad, becomes sentient, destroys things, and creates a body for itself. This is Ultron. Now, Bruce Banner makes a synthetic body, uploads Tony's personal AI, Jarvis, into it, takes the stone from Loki's scepter, puts it into a body's forehead, and Vision is born. The Avengers destroy Ultron, and Pietro dies. Ant-Man. Scott Lang gets out of prison, tries to break into a guy's house. The house belongs to Hank Pym, who is a scientist who has come up with the technology to make things shrink. Some other guys have also come up with this technology, but they're bad. So there's a fight to keep the technology in the hands of good people. Scott Lang is Ant-Man. It's Civil War time. There's an accident and people are mad, so they say that superheroes need to be controlled. Tony Stark agrees. Captain America does not. Fight. King T'Chaka dies and everyone thinks that Bucky Barnes killed him. Cap tries to save Bucky. T'Chaka's son T'Challa, aka the Black Panther, tries to stop him. Big fight scene. We find out Bucky didn't actually kill T'Chaka, but he did kill Tony's parents. And Zemo is controlling all of this. Cap goes free, but Wanda, Hawkeye, Falcon, and Ant-Man are arrested, but then broken out of prison by Cap. Peter Parker deals with the fact that he's a superhero and was briefly recruited to be a part of Tony Stark's team in Civil War. His homecoming date's dad is a bad guy, which gets awkward. T'Challa fights for his right to be the king of Wakanda. His sister is a badass. And we find out in the end, T'Challa has become the king of Wakanda, and Shuri, his sister, has been helping a brainwashed Bucky Barnes reprogram his brain. Dr. Stephen Strange gets into a car accident and messes up his hand, which is a really bad thing because he's a surgeon. He goes on a spiritual journey to find a way to heal faster, coming across the Ancient One, who demonstrates the astral plane. He learns the ways after some resistance and becomes a sorcerer. He uses the Eye of Agamotto to reverse time and annoy the hell out of a creature named Dormammu until he wins. Thor's dad is dying, and when he dies, Thor's oldest sister, Hela, will be freed. She's evil. He has to stop her. He has to fight her. But before this happens, Thor crash lands and ends up having to fight the Hulk, a friend from work. And this is weird. This is a weird one, but everybody loves it for its comedy. So Scott Lang goes on another adventure as Ant-Man, this time with Hank Pym's daughter, Hope, all while technically being under house arrest. The villain in this one is complicated and doesn't matter in the long run. Infinity War time. Thanos.
That butt-chin guy? Yeah, butt-chin guy.
The butt-chin guy. It looks like a ball sack. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to say it.
Thanos is looking for all of the Infinity Stones. First one he finds is in Asgard, and he destroys Asgard, kills Loki, and sends Hulk plummeting down to Earth. Bruce Banner warns Earth people. Aliens show up and start attacking New York for the Infinity Stones there. New York team is Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man. They get kidnapped and go to space in the spaceship that came down. We go over to Europe, and some of Thanos' groupies are trying to get the Mind Stone from Vision. Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, and Sam Wilson get rid of the aliens and save Wanda and Vision. The Guardians of the Galaxy rescue Thor, and most of the Guardians go to protect the Reality Stone, while Rocket, Groot, and Thor go to get him a replacement for his hammer. Thanos kidnaps Gamora and sacrifices her for the Soul Stone. Things happen, and then Doctor Strange gives Thanos the Time Stone, and there is a battle in Wakanda while Shuri tries to remove the Mind Stone safely from Vision. Wanda then has to rip the Mind Stone out of Vision and to destroy it, but Thanos uses the Time Stone to reverse time, and he rips it out of Vision's head, and then after some fighting, he snaps, and people start turning to dust. He completely eviscerated half the population. A month later, Captain Marvel finally shows up to help. Little too late. They track down Thanos to get the stones, but he already destroyed them. 5 years pass. And Scott Lang escapes from a quantum realm where he had been for the last 5 years because all the Pyms turned to dust when he was in this quantum realm. And a rat scurried across the dashboard and set him free. Tony Stark now has a daughter with Pepper Potts, and he figures out time travel, and Tony, Steve, Nat, Clint, Rhodey, Scott, Nebula, Thor, Rocket, and Bruce go back in time. Thor and Rocket go back to Asgard on the day Thor's mom dies to get the Ether, aka the Reality Stone. Nebula, Rhodey, Clint, and Nat go to space. Nebula and Rhodey get the Infinity Stone from the beginning of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but Nebula ends up being caught and replaced by old Nebula, who is still loyal to Thanos. Clint and Nat go to Vormir to get the Soul Stone, and then find out that you have to sacrifice something that you love most in order to get the Soul Stone. So there is a battle on Vormir to see who is going to sacrifice their life in order to get this Infinity Stone. Nat dies.
Oh, poor Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. And so then we go to New York during the very first Avengers movie, and Scott Lang, Captain America, Hulk, and Iron Man all go to get 3 different Infinity Stones. So Bruce goes to talk to the Ancient One to get the Time Stone, while the 3 others go to get Loki's Scepter and the Tesseract that has, both of those have 1 Reality Stone in the, not Reality Stone, both of those have 1 Infinity Stone in them. They fail miserably because old Hulk accidentally yeets someone and... They get Loki's scepter, but they don't get the Tesseract. So Steve and Tony have to go back to the 1970s, where they know that not only the Tesseract is, but more Pym particles to get back to the present. They go back. Steve sees Steve sees Peggy for the first time since he went into the ice, and Tony sees his father for the first time since his father died. Really, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they come back to the present, and so they come back to the present, and when they come back to the present, Thanos also comes back to the present, and there's a big fight. We find out that Steve is able to yield Mjolnir, which is means he's worthy. It's great. It's fabulous. And in the end, Tony Stark dies after saying, "I am Iron Man" again, and snaps, getting rid of Thanos' army. So then Tony goes back to return all of the Infinity Stones. And when he's supposed to come back on the little platform thing, he doesn't, because he actually stayed in the past with Peggy.
Aww.
And they get to have their happily ever after. But then everybody's just like, where is Steve? Where is Steve? And old man Steve gives Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, his shield. And that is the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe first 3 phases. How'd I do on time?
Jesus Christ, I don't even know. I have
Any
one
questions?
question. I have a lot, but we're going to discuss the first one that is at the front of my mind.
Yeah.
So, they're hopping through time as if it's me drinking alcohol on a Friday night. They're just going for it.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that they don't mess up the current timeline they're on by going back? Is that explained?
Yes. So it is explained. And the reason that it's fixed is because although they go back in time to get all of these Infinity Stones, and I actually had this in my script, but I went off script. But when Hulk is talking to the Ancient One who has the Time Stone, big important thing, she lets him know, if you take one of those stones out of the reality, you're going to create an alternative reality. So they have to, the reason why Steve goes back to return the Infinity Stones is so that he can return them to the place and time that they were taken, so that there aren't alternate dimensions that are created.
Okay, so they do their best to cover their ass. Now, my second question here is, so we've talked about time travel and how that.
Yeah.
My second question is, what's the end goal here? Is it always good triumphing over evil? Because we explained what happens in each film, but what's the end goal here? Is it just good triumphing over evil, or is there like control of the universe going on?
So every movie kind of has its own villain, and each of their reasons for being a villain is different. And so normally, in terms of overarching, in just the arc of the singular movie, it's whatever that big bad is trying to do. For example, the very first one that I talked about, Captain America, the guy running everything, the bad guy in that one, Red Skull, is looking for world domination because he's a Nazi. And he's doing it from the scientific side of things, as opposed to Hitler, who's doing it from the political side of things.
Okay, so there's always some form of domination in some form, and the Avengers going, hey, you can't do that.
Yeah, and the other thing with all of it is all of their heroes are flawed in some way or another.
Mm-hmm, which is why everybody loves them.
In some way. Yes, because Tony Stark is an asshole, and especially in Iron Man 3, well, in the original Iron Man, he's just an asshole and a womanizer. And it's just like, we don't want him to be like the good guy. And it's just like, no, he is the good guy. In Iron Man 3, he has a really big problem with drinking and dealing with his PTSD from the Battle of New York. Steve Rogers, although a super soldier, is a man out of his time. So although he did great things in his original movie, his entire arc is about being out of time, being a man from the 1940s living in the 2010s. Thor is a god living on Earth, being banished to Earth and having to deal with that. Loki, not low key, but Loki the character. His inspiration as a villain is kind of just to get as much power that he can, because he's the little brother to Thor. He's never going to take the throne of Asgard.
He's
although
spare.
He actually does. He's the spare. And then he finds out in the first movie that we meet him that he's not even Odin's son, which is why his dad never loved him.
Oh, okay. That's traumatic. Okay.
I went there. Yeah. If you think about Age of Ultron, the villain from that movie, they actually created. The Avengers created. And so it's always kind of about there's evil everywhere. There's also good everywhere. Not all, if you're good, doesn't mean that you're perfect. It doesn't mean that everything is wonderful about you, because you can be highly flawed. Black Widow was trained as an assassin. And in order to make her even more effective, they made her so that she can't have children.
Oh, God. Okay. Forced sterilization. Okay, cool. That's fun.
Forced sterilization, because one of her skills is being able to seduce people in order to get secrets and potentially then assassinate them. But which is why I won't get on that diatribe. But the big bad that was really the overarching throughout the MCU was Thanos, which we see really taking form in Infinity War and Endgame, but is also featured in a lot of them. But with him, he realized that there were issues with too much population. You could solve world hunger if you had half the people. You could solve overcrowding if you had half the people, if you had half the population, which is why he snapped away half of the population.
Okay, so now that you've explained the entire cinematic universe to me, I moderately comprehend it. We've had fun talking about it. Which is your least favorite film out of the entire franchise?
I have a controversial yet brave statement to make.
Do it.
My least favorite is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. There are so many people who are just like, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are the greatest. They're the best. They're the best part of the MCU. And I agree. The first one is great. The first one is fabulous. I don't like the second one. I hate the second one. There are some high points in it. And everybody says that Thor: The Dark World is the worst one. Yeah, it's not great, but there is a lot of important characters and a lot of important backstory that's built during it. So
in conclusion, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is incredibly confusing. It's almost as confusing as the Lord of the Rings franchise. I'm not going to lie. But I would say your explanation, I'd give it like an A. I'm surprised you didn't stutter, because I would have been stuttering like crazy.
I did, but...
Well, my stutter is significantly more noticeable.
Oh, yeah.
But I think you did great. But let us know in the comments down below, how'd Liz do explaining the MCU in, I would say, about like 12 minutes or less. Because I laughed and giggled a little bit. I threw her off her groove.
Yeah.
But let us know, what is your least favorite Marvel film in the MCU as it stands down below. Let's have a discussion. Let's share controversial yet brave opinions.
So with all of that, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit the subscribe button for more of us. We have a podcast that is currently on hiatus. We've got 25 great episodes that are all about music with tons of random episodes about all kinds of different things. Make sure to check that out. That's Classical Chats Podcast. You can find all that information in the information box down below. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up. If you think that I did terribly, give us a thumbs down.
Let us know.
Do it. Be controversial yet brave. Let us know. And with all of that, have a wonderful day. And most importantly,
stay super. Bye.